Good morning, all of you. My name is BHATIA, and this is our first class of BHIC 133. This is our first class of BHIC 133, not 132, not 131. This is a class of 133. Okay, now in this class, we are going to cover our unit 1 and 2 in this. In these two units, we are going to consider about the history writing related to history, how the travelers, how the historians have written about the tradition of history of that time in Mughal period, in Gupta period, and all. And we are going to consider only medieval history. Okay, we are going to consider in this unit 1, 2, 3, and unit 16, 17 also about medieval unit. Now we are going to start unit 1, trends in history writing. How the historians uses so many trends in writing about history. In this unit, on account of vastness of theme, we are narrow down our focus and would largely be dealing with Arabic and Persian historical writings and foreign accounts. Here we are leaving epigraphy and inscriptions, Sanskrit words, Premakhyan means love stories, which are also very important to understand the historic development of the period. Next is Arabic and Persian historic traditions. Because we are going to cover medieval period historiography, history writing, medieval period. That's why we are going to consider about Arabic and Persian historic traditions. Because we are going to cover this period related to Mughals. In medieval period, Delhi Sultanate start, and what about Mughal period start at that time. Arabic historic tradition encompasses socio-economic, cultural, religious, along with the political and military events. That's why was more dramatic in approach. Arabic history tradition can truly be referred to as history of the age. The chain of narrators like Isnad was another important feature of Arabic historiography. The chain of narrators. In the 11th century, another dimension got added to Arabic historiography that officers, scholars associated with the court began writing the histories of their rulers and rulers' events. Persian histories were dynastic histories, histories of the kings, aristocracy, etc. Persian historians prefer to dedicate their work to the ruler, considering necessary to enhance the value of their work, like Minhaj-e-Siraz, Zuzaini, dedicated his Tabakat-e-Nasiri to Nasiruddin Mahmud, Ziauddin Barni, dedicated his Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi to Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Arif Kandahari dedicated Tariq-e-Alfi to Akbar. Yes, we are going to cover in these units about Delhi Sultanate and Mughals. Arabic historic tradition remained prominent till the 10th century. Persian Renaissance under Firdausi. Have you listened about the name Firdausi? Persian Renaissance under Firdausi and later under Sheikh Saidi gradually took over the Arabic tradition of history writing. No sooner Persian had taken over Arabic and became the vehicle of communication, and those of sultans and the nobles and the literati who are related to literature, who are connected to scholars. Next is political chronicles. Chronicles means the people who wrote history at that time. And we are talking about Delhi Sultanate period. Delhi Sultanate period where Alauddin Khilji, Mahmud Ghazni, Muhammad Ghori had ruled at that time. Okay, now we are going to talk about the chronicles of Delhi Sultanate, how they wrote the history about Delhi Sultanate. Hasan Nizami's work can be called first official history. It covers the period from the establishment of Delhi Sultanate 1191 to 92 up to 1229 CE. Minhaj-e-Siraz, Zilani, Juzaini, Tabakat-e-Nasir, dedicated to Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud, is what Rosenthal categorizes as dynastic history. He has written about the dynasty of Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud. Minhaj begins his history from Adam to pious caliphs. Caliph means Khalifa. We are talking about the spiritual leaders of Muslims period. Afterwards, each dynasty is dealt in a separate chapter, means tabaka. From Nasiruddin Mahmud's reign onwards, it turns into an annual chronicle. Though Tabakat is extremely exhaustive and detailed, its focus is largely on narration on political events. How they narrate the political events of that particular leader. And we are talking about Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud. Next is Amir Khusro. Amir Khusro was a poet historian. His Kiran-us-Sadain deals with the meeting of Sultan Kaikuband and Bughra Khan and his march from Delhi to Awadh. It provides interesting insights to various building structures of Delhi, court life, parties, convivial parties, etc. Now we are going to talk about Ziauddin Barni. Have you heard about one of such chronicle like Ziauddin Barni? Ziauddin Barni's detailed account on prices throw valuable light on Alauddin's price control measures. In a market system, Alauddin had controlled the prices of all over the things related to that particular market of his right. Barni also throws interesting light on the construction activities of Alauddin. Construction activities like fortification of Siri Wall, Jami Mosque, several cities, towns, Hauz Khas, etc. Barni showed his clear dislike for Alauddin. He did not like Alauddin. He showed his clear dislike for Alauddin for showing disregard for Sharia in dealing with punishments. Though he praised in general the progress of Sultanate under Alauddin and particularly that of Delhi. Its bazaar, trade, craftsmen, artisans, all of this. Barni's account of Afghanpura tragedy is of importance where, unlike the general blame that Muhammad Tughlaq was responsible for his father's death, he conspired against him. He emphasizes upon his innocence and calls it an accidental death. Barni's detailed account of appointment of various law-born to high offices is very valuable. Similarly, the details pertaining to the network of canals built by Sultan Firoz Shah Tughlaq is very much noteworthy. No other contemporary's analysis on the theme is so insightful and detailed like Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Next is, previously we have talked about Delhi Sultanate Chronicles. Now we are going to start the chronicles related to Mughals, Mughal periods. During Akbar's period, historical literature was produced at an amazingly large scale. Akbar's period. Akbar commissioned Tarikh-e-Alfi to commemorate the Islamic millennium. It covers the period from 632 down to Akbar's region. The book was commissioned in 1582 and completed in 1592. 10 years it took. Khwaja Nizamuddin Ahmad wrote Tabaqat-e-Akbari. Khwaja Nizamuddin Ahmad. During Jahangir's reign, Muhammad Mutamad Khan compiled Iqbal-nama-e-Jahangiri in Jahangir's reign. Iqbal-nama-e-Jahangiri. He wrote his book in 3 volumes. The first deals with the history of Timurids up to the reign of Humayun, while the second deals with Akbar, and the third discusses the reign of Jahangir up to the accession of Shah Jahan, which is the third volume. Other two are rare. That is popularly known as Iqbal-nama-e-Jahangiri. Shah Jahan attempted to pen down the official history of his reign in style of Abul Fazl. That's why he first appointed Muhammad Amin Kazvini in his 8th regional year to begin the task. Kazvini compiled the account for the first 10 years of Shah Jahan's reign. Later, Abdul Hamid Lahori was given the task of writing the history of period, BHATIA Nama, which covers first 20 years of Shah Jahan's reign. Shah Jahan's time periods, first 20 years, up to 1648. The text is very important to understand the geography of Hindustan at that time. He provides a detailed account of subas, their crops, the chief towns, the saints, etc. Though Suzanne has largely borrowed from the Ain, accounts pertaining to some provinces, particularly that of Punjab, are exhaustive and detailed. Bhimsen provides a first-hand account of Aurangabad, its prosperity, rise of Marathas, Maratha raids, prices of cakes. He analyzes that increase in the strength of the nobility led to the Jagirdari crisis during Aurangzeb's reign. Bhimsen. Next is Abul Fazl. It's a very old name. We have heard about a lot of things related to Abul Fazl. Abul Fazl, younger brother of Faizi and the son of the great scholar Sheikh Mubarak Nagori, was not just the secretary of the empire but also was a close friend of Akbar. A rationalist and a liberal thinker also. He joined Akbar's court in 1574, a year before Ibadat Khana was established. You have heard about Ibadat Khana? We will discuss this in our next units as according to its importance. Now it's enough to tell you about Ibadat Khana. His chief fame rests upon his monumental work Akbarnama, of which initially Ain-e-Akbari, another seminal work on statistical account of Akbar's reign, was its 3rd volume. Akbarnama narrative comes to a close in the 46th regional year of Akbar. In the 47th regional year, Abul Fazl got assassinated by Bir Singh Deobundela. He was assassinated. Though Abul Fazl's style of writing lie within the framework of Persian historiography, Abul Fazl attempted to include Arabic tradition also. Nonetheless, as Nizami puts it, his intention of including people was partial and limited. The people were admitted into the charmed circle of historians' study, not as a matter of right, as the Arab historians had done, but as a necessity, because without them a discussion of Akbar's multifarious activities would have remained incomplete and insipid. Nonetheless, Abul Fazl used new methodologies to present the political, and administrative realities of Akbar's realm to the fore. Abul Fazl. Next, we are talking about memoirs. What is memoirs? A historical account, a historical biography that is largely written with a personal memoirs falls into the category of a memoir. Personal memoirs. During the medieval period, there are four accounts major which fall into this category, like Firoz Shah's Futuhat-e-Firoz, Futuhat-e-Firoz Shahi for the Sultanate period, and Babur's memoirs Babarnama, Gulbadan Begum's Humayunama, Humayun Padshah, Jahangir's Tujuk writing during the Mughal period. Babur's memoirs, written originally in Chagatai Turk, can truly be called the only true autobiography in Islamic literature. Chagatai Turk. Chagatai Turkish were the official members of Mughals, Chagatai Turks. It is an extremely open and frank account of events. He was presented an absolutely truthful and unbiased account of the events of this period. Babu admits, "What I have said is the plain truth. I have spoken the things as they happened. In all that I have written, I have in every word must scrupulously followed the truth," means which he has written, all things were truth. Humayunama throw light on Babur and Humayun also, and provide insight on the life of Mughal harem and the personal and social relationship of the royalty, internal conflicts, tensions, role of adab means etiquettes, protocol they were following at that time. Her account suggests that royal women did enjoy distinct position in matters of marriage and social protocol. It also shows women often played the role of political intermediaries. Jahangir wrote his memoirs in the form of annals, the Duke Jahangir. To pen down his memoirs, he derived the inscription from his great-grandfather, Babur. His memoirs are written in two parts. First, an account of 12 years of his reign, and second covers the account up to the beginning of the 19th regional year of his reign. He wrote the account of first 17 years and his own hands. Later, under his dictates, Mutmad Khan penned it down. However, for the rest of the period of Jahangir's reign in 18th century, Muhammad Hadi Kanwar Khan added along with his introduction on the early life of Jahangir. Tujuk is largely an account of Jahangir's reign beginning from Jahangir's birth, his accession, and his 12 orders means Dastur ul Amal, installation of his golden chain of justice, and various administrative and final measures, and Malsab and Jagir assignments, and the Khusro rebellions, maintenance of forts, sarais, roads, etc. Jahangir provides vivid description of the founding of Fatehpur Sikri. The Duke Jahangir. Everything was written over there in the Duke Jahangir. Next is Insha tradition. Epistolography. Insha literally means creation. However, in the medieval period, it denotes personal letters, state correspondences. They provide first-hand information on the working of administration as well as prevailing socio-cultural conditions and ideas during the medieval period. Literature was directly connected with chancellery practices of Delhi Sultans and later the Mughals. Interestingly, the surviving Insha collections are of those who were not holding any post of Diwan-e-Insha office, means official post. That's why two types of inshas. One written for historiography writings. That's why trends in history writing they may not necessarily be real. Manzil or Insha of Khwaja Jahan Mahmud Gawan is the example of his type of insha. In other words, in other types, in other documents, in other letters, correspondences are preserved. These second types of insha are of great historical significance at that time. Next is official documents. How they hold official documents and how they have written at that time the official documents. And official documents was related to what? The range of official documents is too wide to count. It includes farmans, nishans, and parwanas issued by the king to his subordinates Hasif ul Hukm, issued by a minister at the instruction of an emperor, Dastur ul Amal, etc. Here would be mainly focusing on Dastur ul Amals. Dastur ul Amals are crucial source of information to know the actual working of the administration. The earliest of such document available to us is Dastur ul Albab, Fi il Hisab of Firoz Shah's period, written by Abdul Hamid Muharrir Ghaznavi. That was also the name of chronicle. Next, we are going to start about Sufi writing. Who are Sufis? We will cover this in our coming units. Now we are going to cover this Sufi writings. As we have taken word Sufi, then our first word is mystic, means connected to mysterious. In the mystic accounts, we find three types of literature: Mulfuzat, Maktubat, and biographical account of the Sufis. In the Sufi literature, Malfuzat are prime importance. Malfuzat are conversations of Sufis, mystics. Though these Malfuzat primarily address the moral and religious aspects, it nonetheless throws valuable light on general life and conditions of common masses, which otherwise official religious historians and chronicles of the time fail to address. In the mystic accounts, we find three types of literature: Malfuzat, Maktubat, biographical account of Sufis. Yes, now this is repeating and we have done a lot of things related to this. Another important source is a biography of Sufis. There is a difference between biography and autobiography. Now we are talking about biography because for the important saints, so many people, so many scholars have written about their history. That is known as biography. And autobiography, the person who writes the history about himself, that is autobiography. Now we are talking about biographies of Sufis. However, they require to be looked with critical eyes since they often contain exaggerated accounts, miracles, etc. in praise of their masters. For example, Amir Khud's account of Sheikh Fariduddin Ganj-e-Shakar later gets wrapped up into various miraculous stories. And finally, in Jawahir-e-Faridi of Ali Sagar Chishti, it becomes difficult to sift the historical truth. That's why, while analyzing mystical literature, one needs a careful reading of the source and the background of writer concerned. We are talking about Baba Farid. You have heard about Baba Farid related to The Sufi saint? Yes, we are talking to that person, Baba Farid. Sheikh Fariduddin Ganj Shakar. Foreign travelers account so many foreigners have came to India in search of so many new things, and they have heard about the India has a lot of important things, just like spices, just like cotton, just like so many important things in India they got, and they have heard about that. That's why they came to India and they have written about the history of India in their chronicles, in their books, history books. Mughal period is dominated by European travelers' accounts. It is difficult to name all, but prominent and most important of them were Father Monsret, Pelset, Sir Thomas Road, Bernier, Tavernier, Manuki. Father Antonio Montserrat, a Jesuit missionary, accompanied Father Aquaviva along with the first Jesuit mission to Emperor Akbar's court at Agra and reached Akbar's court at Agra in 1580. There he served as Murad's tutor. He penned down his memoirs in 1590. Montserrat commentary is a valuable source to know the details of events of Akbar's campaigns against Mirza Hakim. It also shows valuable light on Akbar's religious encounters and decisions. So many things he had covered. Francois Bernier was a French traveler, you all know, who visited the Mughal Empire during Aurangzeb's reign. When Aurangzeb was ruling, at that time Bernier was visited to India near about 1658 to 1668. He joined the service of Danishmand Khan, a leading Mughal noble, and served in Aurangzeb's court as physician for long 12 years. Bernier's account is rich in providing first-hand information on War of Succession. He personally witnessed Dara being paraded on the streets of Delhi. His accounts of the Battle of Dharmat, as narrated by a gunner of Aurangzeb, is absorbing. He provides detailed descriptions of the cities of Delhi and Agra and the customs and the tradition of people and the riches of empire, working of Mughal karkhanas, condition of peasantry, exploitation of Omra, Mughal governors, Mughal jamidars, jagirdars. He observed that on account of exploitation of the peasants, they fled to the territories of Rajas because they got exploited. He also provides graphic account of condition of the artisans at the Mughal karkhanas. However, his observation with regard to the ownership of land, where he states that thing was the owner of the land, is not correct. Mughals exercised control over the produce of land, and it were the peasants who enjoyed the ownership rights and could not be evicted so long as they were paying the revenue. Next is regional history tradition. Region to region, just like Delhi, just like Vijayanagar, we are talking about. For understanding the state structure of Vijayanagara Empire, Krishna Deva Raya's Amukta Malyada, that is a book of Krishna Deva Rayas. Krishna Deva Raya's Amukta Malyada, written in Telugu in poetic genre, is of immense value, which primarily deals with monarchical principles of the state, duties and responsibilities of a king, administrative structure, army, forest, revenue of state. Raya Vachkamu of Stanpati, Nayani, Vishwantha, Nayaka, believed to be commissioned by Madurai Nayaka, is also a Telugu text deal with Krishnadeva Raya's period through written almost 90 years after Krishnadeva Raya's reign. It puts forth the ideological apology for the political legitimacy of Madurai kingdom. Next, in Unit 1, we have listened about a lot of things like we have read about the chronicles of that particular time period. And which period we are talking about? In medieval time period, we are talking about, not ancient. About ancient, we have studied in BHIC 131 and BHIC 132. And in BHIC 133 and 134, we are going to talk about medieval period. Okay? And previously, we have heard about a lot of chronicles and the historians who had written a lot of information related to that particular sultans, related to that particular Mughal period also. Just like Akbar, Jahangir, Aurangzeb, Shah Jahan, and Alauddin Khilji, Muhammad Ghori, Mahmud Ghaznavi. We have talked about the historians connected to these rulers. Now in Unit 2, our Unit 2 is Foundation, Expansion and Consolidation of Delhi Sultanate. How they expand their empire. Okay, they are from Delhi and how they expand their empire from Delhi also. First of all, we are going to start related to introduction. Mahmud of Ghazni's invasion of India. You have heard about Mahmud Ghazni invade India so many times. Invasion of India at the close of 10th century, followed some 100 years later by Ghorian invasions. Both Ghazni and Ghori was in Afghanistan, and they were distant projections of these vast nomadic movements. As in other parts of Asia, the Turkish eruption in India culminated in the formation of an independent political entity. The Delhi Sultanate in early years of 13th century, the term Delhi Sultanate signified the rule of Turks over large parts of northern India from their capital at Delhi. That time capital was Delhi. In this unit, we will be looking at the conquest of India by Turks, leading to establishment of Delhi Sultanate at the beginning of 13th century. Yes, we are talking about 1206, 1207, 1208, 9, 10. After the military conquest, the rulers of Delhi Sultanate set themselves on the track of consolidating the Sultanate. And next is conflict and consolidation. 1206 to 1219, 90. Yes, so many conflict, so many consolidations also. The period from 1206 to 1290 constitute the formative and the most challenging period in the history of Delhi Sultanate. It was marked by prolonged conflict within the Ghorian ruling classes as well as against the renewed Rajput resurgence. The accession of Balban in 1265 provided the Sultanate with an iron-willed ruler to Balban. This is known as iron-willed ruler. He was a very strict ruler at that time. Balban addressed himself to two major objectives. First is to raise the prestige of crown through elaborate court ceremonials. Inculcation of Sasanian traditions that distanced the ruler from ordinary folks, converting him into a symbol of awe. And next is consolidating Turkish power. Rebellions were put down with determination and administrative procedures were streamlined. Mongol problem. You have heard about Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan. A lot of stories you have heard about Genghis Khan. Yes or no? Reply me. Have you heard about Genghis Khan? Very horrible ruler at that time. Mongol. At any rate, between 1240 to 1266, the Mongols for the first time embarked upon the policy of annexation of India and the golden phase of mutual non-aggression with Delhi ended. During this phase, the Sultanate remained under serious Mongol threat. The main reason was the change in the situation in Central Asia. The Mongol Khan of Transoxiana found it difficult to face the might of Persian Khanate and that's why was left with no alternative except to try his luck in India. He has not tried his luck into India. But Indian rulers was very much in threat that if Mongols will enter into India, then what will be the condition of ours? During Alauddin Khilji's reign, the Mongol incursions extended further and they attempt to ravage Delhi for the first time in CE 1299 under Kutluk Khwaja. Since then, Delhi became a regular target of Mongols. For the second time, Kutluk Khwaja in CE 1303 attacked Delhi when Alauddin Khilji was busy in his Chittor campaign. The attack was so severe that the Mongols inflicted large-scale destruction. And so long as the Mongols besieged Delhi, Alauddin could not enter the city. Next is political consequences of Turkish conquest of India. How the Turks had conquest in India and how they consequent political relation with India. Taking the Delhi Sultanate as a whole, such a system made the assignment dependent on the central authority to a far greater extent than it was possible under the earlier Indian politics. While the Rais, Ranas, Thakurs failed to unite the country, the Turks succeeded in establishing an all India administration by bringing the chief cities and the great roads under the control of government of Delhi. How they expand under the control of Khaljis. And in Khaljis, the most important was Alauddin Khilji. The first of Khalji Sultans, Jalaluddin. Jalaluddin did neither have no resources to undertake any large-scale expansionist program. He has not expanded any large area related to that particular empire. His 6 years' reign was gripped by the internal contradiction of having to reconcile between the policies of Sultan and the interest of his supporters. The resolution of this problem came in the unfortunate assassination of the Sultan. Alauddin Khilji, his accession and successor, had a different imperial design. He was to herald an age of territorial erection, expansion of Sultanate, which saw the frontiers of the Sultanate reaching close to the tip of southern peninsula by the middle of 14th century. He extended his empire a lot. That's why we are talking about southern peninsula. And when? By the middle of 14th century. And how he extended himself to the west and central India. Alauddin Khilji, after consolidating his position and firmly establishing himself at Delhi, undertook the first expedition in the reign of Gujarat in 1299. This also happened to be the first project of territorial expansion under him. Possibly, Alauddin was attracted by the wealth of Gujarat, whose flourishing trade bad always lured invaders. And invaders has got very much attract towards Gujarat for the beautification of Gujarat at that time, for the wealth of Gujarat at that time. That's why invaders were very much attracted on that particular place, Gujarat. Alauddin Khilji was also consolidating his position and firmly establishing himself at Delhi, but he undertook first expedition in the Rhine of Gujarat in 1299. Next, how Alauddin Khilji had extended himself to northwest and the North India, northwest and north. By the end of first decade of Alauddin's rule, the end of first decade means first 10 years when they were ending of Alauddin rules, the frontiers of Delhi Sultanate had expanded to control almost the whole of north, west and central India. From Multan in northwest, Vindhyas in central India, almost the entire Rajputana had now become brought under the expense of Delhi Sultanate. They have won a lot of places related to that. Next is our unit. Next point is Deccan southward expansion, middle and southward. Alauddin's Deccan and southward campaigns were aimed at achieving two basic objectives. First is formal recognition of authority of Delhi Sultan over these regions, means Delhi Sultan controlled formal recognition on these regions. Next is the amassing of maximum wealth at the minimal loss of life. His policy of not annexing the conquered territories but accepting the acknowledgement of Sultan's suzerainty speaks of Alauddin's political sagacity. Next is after Khalji's Tughlaqs came, expansion under the Tughlaqs, and we are talking about Delhi Sultanate. The Tughlaqs came to power in Delhi when Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq ascended the throne in 1320. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. The Sultanate was suffering from unsettled political conditions and demanded immediate attention of the new ruler. The outlying provinces had proclaimed independence as the effective control of Sultanate had shrunk only in the heartland. The administrative machinery was completely out of gear and the treasury had been completely depleted. Ghiyasuddin naturally addressed himself first to the task of restoring the exchequer and administration. But soon after that came the question of restoring prestige and authority in the outlying parts of empire. Question raised at that time. Next, how they control to the south. They extend towards south. The political condition in Deccan was not assuring in any way. The acceptance of Alauddin's suzerainty and the promise of loyalty by the rulers of south were only nominal, on paperwork only. Fresh military expeditions were certainly needed for the reinforcement of imperial authority in Devagiri and Telangana. Devgiri, as you have already read, had been annexed to Sultanate by Mubarak Khalji. But the southern states beyond Devgiri had completely overthrown whatever little semblance of imperial authority remained there. And what about East India? The expedition in the eastern parts of India came as consequences of war in south. Bhanudeva II, the ruler of Jalandhar in Orissa, had given support to Rai Rudradev of Warangal at the time of imperial offensive against the latter. Ulugh Khan after leaving Gorangal, sometime in the middle of 1324, marched against Jalandhar, Jajnagar. No, not Jalandhar. This is a Jajnagar. Now he marched against Jajnagar. A fierce battle took place in which victory sided with Ulugh Khan. He plundered the enemy camp and collected a large booty. Jajnagar was annexed and part of Sultanate. Northwest and North. Northwest and North. Since Alauddin's expedition to Multan, we have talked about Alauddin's expedition to Multan, the northwest frontier of Sultanate had remained fixed. Subsequent sultans were mostly occupied with the affairs of South and Gujarat. It was after Muhammad Tughlaq acceded to the throne that attention was paid to northwest frontier. Soon after his accession, Muhammad Tughlaq led campaign to Kalanur and Peshawar. Probably, it was a sequel of invasion of Mongols under Tamerlane Khan in 1326-27 and was aimed at securing northwestern frontier of Sultanate against future Mongol attacks. Next, how the nature of state at that time. No, we have left so many things in northwest and north. Yes. On his way to Kalanur, the Sultan stayed at Lahore but ordered his enemy to march and conquer Kalanur and Peshawar. That task seemed to have been accomplished without much difficulty. The Sultanate settled the administrative arrangements of newly conquered region and marched back to Delhi at that time. Next, nature of state. How they established their state after conquering so many states. How they established their state. In the Delhi Sultanate, the nobility was an important part of the state, as Mughals also adopted that. Who? Nobility means the Mantri Parishad was an important part of the state, comprised largely of Turkish slaves who had very complex relationship of loyalty with individual rulers. Once their master ruler died, they had no attachment with the new ruler and often revolted against him. Struggle between the sultans and the nobles for power was a common phenomenon of the sultan. In the beginning of, Turkish nobles monopolized all powerful positions. The monopoly, monopolized all powerful positions. Who? Turkish nobles. But with the coming of Khaljis, the character of nobility changed. In the subsequent period, different sections of Muslims, including Indian Muslims, got a birth in the nobility. The ruling class, in spite of its narrow social base, was very sensitive to the composite character of local society. The growth of Sufism and Bhakti movements during the rule of Delhi Sultanate indicates the spirit of toleration prevailing within the state. What? The growth of Sufism and Bhakti movements. Scholars have focused on other power groups and such as Sufis to argue that the effectiveness of the state was often hindered because of the power of the Sufi spiritual masters, means Peer, who had a strong influence over the people of surrounding areas. And the people of surrounding areas, the people connected to Murshid, Peer and Murshid, master and the follower. Importantly, in this case, the religion of local population did not come in the way of the influence of the Sufis. Usually, the Sufis settled in areas that were a little away from the urban areas, outside of urban areas. But perhaps the most dramatic situation arose in the region reign of Sultan Alauddin Khilji, when the Sufi Pir Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia set up his hospice in the capital city itself, thereby posing a very important challenge to the effectiveness of Sultan's political rule. Sheikh Nizamuddin Aulia, Sufi Pir, Hospike, followers came to them and they follow that Sufis. And this was a big challenge for the Sultan's effectiveness and for Sultan's political rule. As mentioned earlier, the state also manifested itself through a variety of other actions in larger rear. Chief among them were act of building and charity. As a part of a dominance of the state, as also a physical marker of its presence, the state often encouraged construction of buildings, construction of mosques and canals and wells. They were doing these activities at that time. These would be visible reminders of presence of the state all over the realm, as also manifestation of the glory of that particular state. Finally, the state also gave charitable endowments to the needy and to the intellectuals as a part of its patronage of its subjects. That is very important thing for that time, because Sufis also got charity and they have given langar, means open kitchen, for all type of people. If the people from the surrounding areas, they came to visit to that particular Sufi, and the living area and the kitchen area and the bath area, that will be also important for that time. For these things, the charity become a lot. Now, what we have studied in this unit 1 and 2, how much things? We have studied about Mahmud Ghaznavi. We have studied about Muhammad Ghori. We have studied about Alauddin Khilji, Jalaluddin Khilji. We have studied about Sufi saints also. We have studied about a lot of chronicles in our unit 1 also. After Muhammad Ghori's departure on his commanders, Qutbuddin Aibak got busy in establishing the Turkish power in India. Qutbuddin Aibak. In the process, he suppressed Yalduj, the Muizi slave, who had rival claims to the Muizi throne in India. But he failed to suppress Kubacha. The task was left to Iltutmish. After Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish came, and Iltutmish not only expanded the Muizi Empire but also organized and strengthened the administrative machinery with the help of the group of nobles. And nobles called 40. Ali Baba Chalis too. 40 nobles. He also introduced certain Sassanid institutions like Iqta that helped greatly in centralizing the administration. Turks succeeded primarily because of their superior military technology and on account of the fact that Indian armies mainly consisted of feudal levies. Turkish conquest was not simply the change of one dynasty by another. It had a far-reaching effect on Indian society, Indian economy, and polity itself. You will study about these aspects later during this course in our next themes and in our next units related to these in depth. Following the death of Iltutmish in 1236 CE, for nearly a half century, all efforts of sultans of Delhi were geared towards consolidating early territorial gains by strengthening the fiscal and administrative base of the Sultanate. The next phase of territorial expansion, therefore, began with the opening of 14th century under Khaljis. Alauddin's administrative and economic measures have helped consolidation as well as widen the base of the Sultanate. The acquisition of new territories had thus become a feasible proposition. Now we are reminding our previous things. Like we have talked about a lot of chronicles, just like Francois Bernier. He was a French traveler and he visited to Mughal Empire at that time. A lot of things he had written about the Mughal emperors. Foreign travelers allowed in Bernier also. Montserrat, we have discussed about who was Montserrat, Jesuit missions, Montserrat. Next, biographies. Biographies of Sufis. Taken. We have taken the history source to know about the particular type. Biographies. We have heard about Fariduddin Ganj Shakar, means Baba Farid. We have uh, we have read about official documents. Official documents related to what we have seen a lot of relative official documents related to that particular Delhi Sultanate and Mughal period also. Official documents, so that we can have a lot of sources to know about the administrative system of that particular time, just like Dastur ul Amals. In this source, the information to know the actual working of administration. Insha, we have read about Insha also. Two type of Inshas we have read. Gulbadan Begum, who wrote Humayunama, related to that particular Mughal period. Memoirs, the people, they give their memories to know about the Mughal period, to know about Delhi Sultanate period. Abul Fazl. Abul Fazl was in 8 jewels of Akbar. He has given a lot of evidences related to Akbar that connected to very truth. Chronicles. Yauddin Barni. Barni had given a lot of details related to that particular Delhi Sultanate. So many things we have covered in this unit 1 and 2. So many things. Arabic and Persian tradition, historic tradition also. In our next unit 2, what things we have covered? Let's see. Yes, how the Mughals and Delhi Sultanate had expanded its control after Delhi also. And they were ruling on Delhi, and after Delhi, how they expanded in the near about areas of that particular time. 1206, 1290. What was the changes between these periods? What were the changes? How Turkish came to India, how Afghans came to India, and how the interesting things which they were doing in India, how they expand their empire, how they solved Mongol problem, because the Mongol problem was a big problem at that time. Indians was also very much in sure position that if Mongols will enter in India, what they will do at that time. Political conquest of Turkish conquest of India, how they conquest India and how they control politically on India. Rais, Ranas, Thakurs, they failed to unite themselves. That was the main benefit for the Turks. Expand, how Khaljis expand in themselves, because Jalaluddin had no that type of history of expansion. Okay, and Alauddin Khilji, he has done a lot of things, a lot of expansion, and a lot of improvement in market system also. How they control in West and Central India, how they control in Northwest and North India, how they control Deccan area, because that was a very important and powerful area at that time. How they expand towards Deccan and southward also. How they expand under the Tughlaqs. Because Muhammad bin Tughlaq, you have heard about a lot of things related to Muhammad Tughlaq. We will study in our next units about Tughlaqs, about Khaljis, about Mughals, a lot of things, very important things related to history. We will study about these rulers in our next classes. Okay, now we are going to end our class, and now this is our end class. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.